This damage was caused by a wall of a house. And after it crashed into the house, of course, I bought it. No! And this M3 was left with some serious damage to the front end, the interior, and mostly to the rear.
Oh my God!
But before I bought any parts for this car, I wanted to be 100% sure that this damage was actually fixable. So I called an expert.
What's up, buddy?
Yo! We are calling you because of your expertise and knowledge.
Liar.
Is this repairable?
By repairable, do you mean like after you cut it out you can repair it, or like fix that?
Yeah, I mean, after we cut it out, is it repairable?
Yeah, anything's repairable.
Which is exactly what I wanted to hear. Now, we can begin work. So all of this can come off with all of these separate little spot welds here. Can you see? Look, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld. But I'm not going to start that just yet. We're going to start here at the front and then work our way back because there's still quite a lot of damage that needs to be done. Let's do it. We'll worry about that rear quarter later in the video. For now, let's get this bonnet off. And anytime you have damage to a bonnet on a car, it's always good to replace the hinges as well. Especially on this BMW because it has that passenger protection system. This little device here you can see me pushing down, which pushes the back of the hinge upwards to protect a pedestrian if you were ever to hit them. But to access the hinges, we've got to take off this scuttle panel along with the wiper blades, and now we can get to the system which is bolted to the hinge. Because these are deployed, we're going to have to replace not only the protection system, but also the hinges as well. These hinges, they can actually be reset after they blow off with the pedestrian protection system. And someone said, why don't I do that to just save the money? Well, the thing is, even if I do like slide that down and then hook this back over that little knob there, this hinge, you can see, it is well bent. Like, it's that's meant to be rolled back there. So if we're lining up the bonnet, it's just not worth the hassle. Just get new hinges and stop being a cheapskate. Last time, we tried to work out how exactly this BMW ended up in a house. And this time, we actually have new footage. This is CCTV from one of the houses down the road. And if you look in the top right-hand corner, you can see the BMW fly past and into the house. And what's even better than that, I actually had emailed a recreation of the crash, including the speed they were going as well. They were going pretty fast into this house. Ah, so that's what happened. Now we've just got to rebuild it. So there's still more damage to the front end of the car. Both front wings are damaged, the front bumper, the headlights, and who knows what else when we start to tear this apart. There's even little things that you forget about, like the parking sensors and the wiring, which has all been broken. But at this stage, it's just a case of stripping everything apart and trying to find everything that is damaged so we know we can replace it. The front left headlight is definitely no good to us anymore. And there's parts of the insulation of the house inside the light. And on the driver's side headlight, that's all broken up as well. So that's also going to have to be replaced. And now we can get on with removing the front wing, or fender if you're American. Some of the bolts for the wings are in tricky places, but generally most BMWs are all the same. And as we've worked on a few now, it's quite easy to locate where the bolts are. And once we've got that wing off, we can see exactly what's damaged. Again, everything here is looking great, but we didn't expect there to be any damage here. This is maybe bent, but I think it'll go again. That'll go again, won't it? Next step, there's a bit of brick. Front rad pack. This should come off in one whole piece, I think. We should be able to get it off.
Just jiggle back it.
What's that mean?
It's like...
Okay. First off, it's the strut braces. Yeah! Then we've got to remove the clips which hold the intake pipe to the rad pack. Ethan demonstrating quite well here.
Oh! Hey!
After that, there's 4 big bolts which remove it from the frame. Next step, hoses. We're disconnecting everything that's connected from the rad pack to the engine and chassis of the car. There's 2 hoses on this side for this small radiator, a bottom hose for the main radiator, and the same on the other side. And to access it further, we've got to remove this under tray, which also works as a strut brace as well. Now we can remove the 2 bolts at the bottom, which are connecting the rad pack to the front subframe, and the 4 big bolts which are also connecting the rad pack to the chassis legs of the car. After that, we should have the all clear. We've just got to move it away and make sure we did actually disconnect everything. Oh, there's one. Hey. Yes. Then, screensaver popped in to remove the windscreen, which is going to be helpful for a job we're going to be doing later on in the video. Cheers, lads. This is the rad pack, and it holds every single radiator for the car on the front of it. Sometimes it is easier to go through every single individual part and order that separately, and it can be cheaper. But in this case, and especially this case, I've got a better deal on ordering the full bit complete. Because I've got this one. This front rad pack, which is pretty much perfect, it's got every single part on it, was from Cinetic, which is a breaker's yard, and they were breaking a BMW M3 with rear end damage. So I've got lucky here, and I've got a lot of parts in a package deal for my M3. All I've got to do now is just put this rad pack on, which should be as easy as taking it off. We'll see. It is a huge saviour being able to buy something like this, because generally I thought I'd struggle getting something like this when I first picked up the car because the car's so new.
Bet that one ain't from 7,000 miles.
But it's definitely worth doing that extra bit of research and asking breakers yards if they have any of the car that you're rebuilding in, even if it isn't listed online. Now I've got the rad pack roughly in place, I'm connecting all the electrical connections up, like the front fans, then all the cooling hoses, making sure I connect up the bonnet release cable to the new rad pack, which includes the bonnet locks on it, and then connecting up the hoses for the auxiliary radiators on the left and right hand side of the car. After that's done, we can begin to put all the bolts in which connect the rad pack to the chassis of it and the front subframe. Not forgetting even more electrical connectors. Then I can push the intake pipe back in place and put those clips back in that Ethan removed. And it's looking pretty good. It is starting to look brand new already, or brand new second hand, links in the description. Now, everything is connected on the front bar 2 things. So here's the oil cooler that always gets battered and bruised, and here are the oil lines which go to it, and they were kinked. I had to cut them off in the last video so I could bypass the oil cooler. Well, this line actually goes here, and this line here actually goes to there. I need 2 new oil lines which haven't arrived yet from BMW, so we're waiting for them, and that is the last thing we need to connect to get this up and running, and then we can change the oil and make sure it is all good. But there's more things to fit. This foam piece goes at the very front of the crash bar here and actually serves a purpose. It holds this little tube which goes down along here into those little sensors which I told you guys about, which if this gets hit and that hose pinches, then it blows that pedestrian protection system up on the front, and literally all that holds this on is you just do this. And that is it. Don't kick it. Big moment now. The headlights. Our worst enemy. Chances of these working is very slim. Now, normally what I do with headlights, and I advise anyone to do it, is just check the part number on your own headlight and get the exact same one. There's no point taking the risk, but guess what? I took the risk. 644802. Completely different. Starts with a 9.
I'm hoping this works.
I'm gonna just plug this one in. We've never had good experience plugging in second-hand headlights, but let's see what happens with these second-hand headlights. They were £900 for the pair.
Okay, it's not great.
I think it's not the most expensive set of headlights I've had, but they aren't cheap.
No.
See if it works.
Big moment.
Oh! We're on. No lights.
No
flashing.
lights. No, nothing.
Nothing at all.
No.
Fantastic.
£900 in the bin.
No lights.
Nothing.
I just wanted to remove the second-hand headlights and put the originals back in just to see if they were working.
That's a good test. I like that. That's clever. Aha. That's also painful.
And they worked. What's the difference? Unless they're doing just the coding. I could change these, but I don't think these are going to make a difference. I don't think they are.
It's worth it for a £900 to try, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was down to the last resort of changing all the little ballasts on the back of the headlight. I'm not actually sure this will make a huge difference, but it's just worth a try. It's never worked previously, but that's not to say it won't work now. Swapped over all these modules, but I'm feeling very doubtful because I think all these do is just power up the LEDs. I'm very, very, very doubtful. But let's manifest.
It actually works.
No way did that work.
That's never worked before.
That's
on any
never,
of
no,
my cars.
that's never worked before. This one! Yeah! Yes! I can't believe that's worked. No way, that's never worked before.
Okay, let's just do
I
the other
manifested it.
one. Let's just do the other one before we get too excited.
I manifested it.
You did manifest it.
I've manifested it. There you go, guys. Manifest it, and it works. All I've got to do now is manifest the rear end being fixed. I can't believe that actually worked. Maybe one of you guys could tell me why that worked? Yes! I still can't get my head around it. Now we're gonna modify them. Oh! Yes! Look at that!
That could have gone straight in his hand then.
I'm going to be removing this little board here with the LED on, which sits inside the module. Once I've removed it, I'm then going to apply some of this paste to stick a new board on, which I got from AUTOID. And we're going to wait for that to dry. After that, I'm going to move to the back of the headlight and remove the module out of this one. And once I've got that out, pry the board off the module. Oh! Being very careful with it. And then apply the new board, which I got from AUTOID as well. I think this is going to be a pretty cool modification, but we've got to wait for it to dry. Whilst we wait for the glue to dry on those modules, I do have some more stuff. In with my deal, I also managed to get a bonnet, a wing or fender if you're American, and another wing or fender if you're American. Now these are wrapped, this is wrapped in grey, but somehow I've been so fluky and it is the same orangey red as what the car is. I've just got to unwrap it. I've already unwrapped that wing. I'm going to unwrap this and then I can start fitting the two wings. We could actually get the full front end built. This is going to be like record timing. When buying parts off a scrap car, you can usually get a pretty good deal if you're going to buy a lot of them. So as well as buying the rad pack and the headlights, I managed to get a really good deal with the front wings and bonnet as well. And lucky enough for me, they were the same colour as the car. The only thing is, I've got to remove the wrap that was on them first. But again, luckily, underneath the wrap, the paint was all good. So we might get away with not having to paint this. With the wrap off, I can start to fit the right-hand side wing. Unfortunately, I didn't get a front bumper with the deal, but you'll see why in a minute. Once I put this wing on, I can put the washer bottle in place, which sits inside the wing and secures up with just one bolt. After that, the board on the modules had dried, so I can plug them back in and slot them into the top of the headlight, tighten them down, then get the ones which fit on the back, plug them in and tighten them up. And we're about to see whether this modification is actually pulled off. Here we go. Big moment. Oh, look at, just put side lights, just put side lights.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Oh, that one.
Look at that, look. Yellow. I know some people are going to be like, why would you do that? but that looks mental. Yellow DRLs. Oh, and that's cool. Wait. Full effect. Oh, look at that.
That at night time is going to look sick.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah?
Good news.
You don't love it?
Is it legal?
Is it legal?
Is it illegal? Are you the police? That is looking so cool. Again, I think it's those extra little touches which is really going to pull this car together when we finally get it back on the road. Now, we're on to wiring. Some of the parking sensor wires have been pulled out of the connectors on the front. So instead of buying a whole new loom, which is pretty expensive, I imagine, I'm just going to splice the wires on the front, slide on my little solder stick, then slide on a connector which I had left over in the unit, and when I use my heat gun over this little solder sleeve, it will heat it up and melt the solder in it, making a nice connection. Now, some people don't like the look of the standard front bumper on these, and I kind of have to agree with you. The front nostrils are pretty hard to get used to. But when I went to AUTOID, they said there was a solution for that, and I think they're right. This is the Adro bumper, and AUTOID are the UK distributors of Adro, and I think this bumper is going to dramatically change the front of this car for the good, and I don't think we'll get the full effect until it's painted. For now, we've got to see whether it fits right, so I'm fitting all the parking sensor wiring loom, which I've just repaired to the back of the Adro bumper, and then I can slot it into place. Again, a huge thank you to AUTOID for this. When they reached out to me to help with the modifications of this build, of course I'm not going to say no. I'll be mad to. For now, the Adro bumper is on. It's a 10 out of 10 from me. Look at this. That looks savage. That looks unreal. I think that is a definite improvement. Again, there's probably going to be people that are like, oh no, I prefer the original, but how can you not like that? I know it's not orange or red or whatever the colour of the car is at the minute. Oh, that looks wicked. That looks absolutely wicked. Introducing more modifications. I wouldn't be me without upgrading the car as well as rebuilding it. So to get rid of those ugly strut braces, we've got some carbon strut braces from KIES or KIES. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. These are just going to simply replace the old ugly strut braces and look a lot better in doing so. I always like to throw in the odd upgrade when rebuilding these cars just to give them that extra bit of edge to a regular BMW M3. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty more upgrades throughout this whole rebuild. It's a very upgradable car. Another sensational modification, in my opinion. But you guys can let me know in the comment section below. Now, time for the bonnet. And with the bonnet, of course, I got the new bonnet hinges. Normally to line up a bonnet and get the panel lines all good, it's pretty tricky, but for now, I'm just going to use the witness marks of where it was originally bolted up to get it roughly in place. Once the hinges are in place, it's time for the new passenger protection system, which bolts to the hinges, and then the electrical connector can clip into them on both sides. And then I've got to get to work with removing all of the old wrap. And that is pretty much job done for the front end. Right, lads from the body shop have come down who paint my cars, and they've said that basically what I shouldn't have done is cut all of this out, which is probably right, because the idea is to pull this out with all the panels connected to try and get this line quite nice before I start taking off the quarter panels and everything else. Look at the contraption that they've set up. So it's going to go onto a strong part of the chassis rail over there. The pump goes along here and then onto a strong part of the quarter. And then I'm going to pump it up and try and push this out as far as I can to get this gap nice. Whoa.
It's even moving up here.
The idea is to get the panels as straight as possible before we start cutting off the rear quarter. That way we can get a pretty good idea of what part of the car is savable and what part of the car that we actually need to cut off. Also, we're going to get a nice mating surface for all of the new panels which go on. And you can see just how far the car's actually moving when the guys are pushing it around in the back now. And then we'll get a pretty good idea. Look at this. What a difference pulling it makes. I really wish I didn't cut it, but we know now for next time, because that's just, well, it's just really helped pulling the whole panel out. We've got almost a nice gap here. It's a little bit bigger here, but that's because of all of this damage. But now we've actually got room in the back, and we can see which parts are scrap, which have been written on, and then which parts we're going to save. So like this inner arch lining we can save. And now I think we can save this parcel shelf. It's all been pulled out, and by doing that, it means that we don't have to do loads of welding over on this side, which is what we didn't want to do. So now we kind of have made progress here, but that's not the job we want to carry on with at the minute. All of the airbags inside the car need changing. Every single one is deployed, but to do so, I need to be able to open the doors. So I've got to put the wheels on, but that brings me to the rear, and that's why I've got this arm here. Remember in the first video, we found that only one arm was bent on the back. So all I'm going to do is put this arm on, see if the wheel sits straight, put the wheel on, and I should be able to just drive it forward enough so I can open the doors and fit the dashboard. So this is actually going to be quite interesting. First, I still need to remove more damaged trims and heat shields which are at the back. Now we can get full access to that bent arm. I've already unbolted it from the rear subframe. I've just got to unbolt it from the actual wheel hub. And these funny looking washers here are there so we can adjust the toe of the wheel in and out. But we'll worry about them when we come to get the wheel alignment. Now we've just got to fit the new rear trailing arm and get the washers roughly right.
That controls the handbrake, and it is broken. Snapped off. So we just got to put a new one on them on.
Also, the electronic handbrake is broken. It's only plastic and it's snapped off from the actual caliper. I've just got to unbolt the broken parts off the caliper and then bolt on the new electronic handbrake. All this is a motor which twists the piston on the caliper outwards so it clamps the brake pads onto the rear disc, effectively doing a handbrake's job, but electronically. Now I can put the wheel on and I can see if everything is all lining up okay. And from here, it looks all right. Okay, moment of truth. We want to pull this forward. Actually, let's check the tracking. That looks sound. This one, sound. I think we're good.
Look how crazy this thing looks.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a little bit pointed in, isn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely...
But yeah, I did do that. I can tow it out. I've just... That arm I put on has got adjustment, which I did show. But now, we can get doors open. And it's time to do all of these airbags. Obviously, we've got to replace the full dashboard because the passenger airbag has split the dash over here. And you can't repair this. There's a weak point in the dash. And when that blows up, it's no longer repairable. So we've got to replace the full dashboard. Luckily, I got one. Second hand, £450.
That's not too bad.
I don't think, it didn't include airbags. I had to buy the airbags. The airbags, it did include airbags.
And you've bought them separately as
Oh
well?
my God. Well, that's a bonus. I could send an airbag back because the airbags were about like 700 quid for the second hand one there.
So we saved £900 with the headlights.
We're on a roll. We're on a roll. This is out of the 3 Series, so like a regular 3 Series, but I think it's the same. But we'll find out. First step is to remove the seats. I always tend to do this when doing airbags. It just gives you a bit more room to move around the car, especially when all of the airbags are deployed. That's one driver's seat out and the passenger seat. Loads of room now to crack on with the work. I'm going to start off with the curtain airbags. The ones I hate the most. Off comes the A-pillar trim, and the curtain airbags are just clipped into the actual frame of the car. But the clips are so powerful and they're really hard to get out. But once you've got them out, this is what the device looks like. Onto the new curtain airbag, which I bought from BMW. Fresh with new clips, ready to go in. All I've got to do with this is plug in the electrical connector for it. There's 2 bolts which hold the actual explosive device to the frame of the car, and then the rest is all on clips. And it's exactly the same for the right hand side of the car as well. And once that's done, we can push back the headliner and move on to the next thing. Ready? Okay, curtain airbags are in. That is a horrible job, but it's done. Next step, we've got to take these seat belts out because they are fully locked up. Oh, that one isn't. Oh, do you know why that might be?
Why?
What do you think?
Because the passenger wasn't driving.
Normally, so these seat belts lock out, so when the airbag deploys, you stay in the same spot. Otherwise, if it didn't lock out, then what would happen is you go forward, the airbag would deploy, and then you just KO yourself on the steering wheel. So these lock out to keep you in the same spot. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Thing is, we can get these sent off to a company and then reset and have new airbag device things put on them, which is what I plan to do because it saves a lot of money. So I'm going to take these bolts out and we'll send them off. Then we can get onto the dashboard.
Are you going to send the other one off?
Yeah, just in case, because I feel like it should have been locked out. The only reason I can think of that the other seatbelt hasn't locked up is that either the passenger wasn't wearing a seatbelt or there just wasn't a passenger. I guess we might never find out. But now I've got the trim removed, I can access the bolts which hold the seatbelt in place, remove them and send them off. And we do exactly the same thing for the passenger side. Even though it does seem okay, I just want to be sure. Seatbelts are out. Next step, the big one. Center console's got to come out because the dashboard has got to come out. I thought I might be able to get away with just taking the dash out and leaving the center console in. But when we look at the old dashboard, there is a bolt holding it in there. And there was something there, but whoever took that out broke that. So yeah, center console's got to come out. Here we go, onto the big one, the dashboard. There's no avoiding it, we've got to do it. First off is the trim at the back of the center console. Once I've got this off, I can access the 2 10mm bolts which bolt the center console to the frame of the car. Then I'm going to go in the cup holder, remove the trim, then I can see the other 2 10mm which hold the center console to the frame of the car. Again, I've never worked on one of these BMW M3s ever before, so most of this is just guessing and using common sense on where I think the bolts are which are going to hold in this dashboard. We still haven't managed to remove the center console away from the dash because we think there's a few hidden bolts behind it, but my dad's trying to work that out whilst I start taking apart this dashboard. Out with the screen in the middle, and then the instrument cluster. Got to take out all the fans because behind the fans there's usually hidden bolts. I can lift up the trim behind the steering wheel for more bolts to remove the instrument cluster, and behind the instrument cluster, even more bolts. But the cool thing about this BMW is that they've actually used all of the same bolts to hold the dashboard in, which makes it a lot easier to organise them all and work out where they went. I've removed the knee airbag from underneath the steering wheel. There's one bolt at the top of the dash here, which would have been really difficult to get to if we had that windscreen in. So again, a massive thanks to Screensaver for taking the screen out for us, which has made this job a lot easier. Now moving over onto the left side, which my dad's doing. 2 bolts on the side, 1 bolt at the top of the dashboard, a few underneath, and then a lot more inside the glove box. It's never ending. The dash still didn't move, so we pried this trim off on the top of the dashboard, which revealed a set of speakers, and you guessed it, a whole lot more bolts. Oh no. My dad dropped one of them, but we managed to find it. Next up is the steering wheel airbag, pops out from the steering wheel, and then I can loosen the 1 big bolt which holds the steering wheel to the steering wheel column. We're going to tape the clock spring into place to stop it from spinning and breaking. Then I'm going to start to strip apart the steering column, just so we're able to pull the dashboard over the top of it. Then I think we finally figured out where the last 2 bolts were. I think we're on the last 2 bolts, which are like through this tiny little hole at the back. For some reason BMW put them there. The rest really easy, and of course the last 2 ones are going to be a faff. Not much room here. Hey, the dash is out. There's a lot of stuff in here. Bearing in mind, we've just taken the full dashboard out. There's still a lot of stuff. Heads-up display, steering column, this whole metal frame. So this is how many screws we're holding on the actual dashboard. If we've got any left over at the end, we haven't done very well. And we do a little score out of 10. Now we're gonna minus 2 off this because the new dashboard has got 2 broken bits off. So if we've got 2 left at the end, that still counts as a 10 out of 10 score, as I see it. Any more than 2, then we've got a problem. Here's the old dashboard, and these are the little bits here, which were really hard to get to. And the other guy who took this out on eBay obviously found it really hard as well. That hard that he just snapped them. Oh, he snapped that bit off as well. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3 screws left over because he snapped them. Nice one, mate. In we go with the new dashboard and the new passenger side airbag. We're trying to do this as quick as possible now, so remember where all those bolts were that we've just removed, and we're doing pretty well. It is a lot easier when 2 of you are on the job. My dad's remembered where the bolts were on the left-hand side, and I've remembered where everything goes on the right-hand side of the car. It's teamwork. Back in with all the air vents, the steering column trims, and the instrument cluster, which I had to remove a few times because there was other things I had to bolt in first. Here is the airbag. Oh yeah, and good as new. Here's the knee airbag. The knee airbag just goes underneath, well, where your knees go, and there's 2 10mm bolts which hold it in place. As they would say in France, j'ai fini. That means I'm finished. Look at that. And we had 3 bolts left over as predicted. I forgot to film that part, but you're gonna have to take my word for it. It works. Look at all this. The dashboard is lit up. That's lit up. All of this is lit up. That's lit up. It's great. And everything all works. I kind of wish I had the bucket seats in this, but I think the bucket seats are really expensive, but we have smashed this out in a matter of a couple of hours. All the airbags are now in, even the curtain airbags. The only one thing we're missing are the seat belts, which we're gonna have to wait to get back, but there's still more. The oil cooler lines have arrived from BMW. Now, we should be able to get these fitted and kind of finish off the whole front end in one whole go. If only this job was as easy as it sounded. First off, I'm going to drain the oil that's inside the engine, which is easy enough done. And then these 2 oil cooler lines are in a place I can't even describe on the side of the engine. They were so difficult to get to. But eventually, I got one out, and after fighting a bit more, I managed to pull the second one out. But putting them back in is going to be a struggle. That was a lot harder than I thought. I've had to take down the steering rack, the anti-roll bar, just to get the oil lines in, which you'll never see. They go some weird route all the way up there, and then come down into this oil cooler here. So now, I've got to get these ones on and slot them in. This is going to be even harder now because these are longer, because I've not cut these ones. So I've got to get these ones up into the hole, bolt it all in. Don't let this edit deceive you. This took a lot longer than I originally thought, and a lot longer than this edit makes out. I pushed them up to the side of the engine and then bolted them, one to one side of the oil cooler and one to the other side of the oil cooler. Then it was on with the under tray. All the under tray and everything is on. But remember, BMW decided to leave the oil cooler kind of exposed. There is an under tray here, but it's still exposed. And this gets a battering, and we don't want it to get a battering again. And this is a modification now, which is actually, what do you call it?
Improving.
Yeah, it's improving and practical. It's a practical modification, because look at this, from AUTOID, it's an actual tray, which probably should have come with the BMW from factory, but AUTOID realised that and started selling them. And now, this tray not only still provides the aerodynamic cooling system that we need, it also provides the protection as well. Wow! Look at it! Look at it thrive underneath here! What a modification this was! Again, thanks AUTOID. Now, I think that's all left to do to get this thing started and moved out is to fill it with oil and fill it with coolant. You think you just pour both in, but this is a 2022 car. So it's not easy as that. You wait till you see what you have to do to pour coolant in this car. Start off with step one, which would be remove the coolant cap from the engine cooling side, then the cap from the charge cooling side. After that, we're going to put in the vacuum filler into the engine cooling side of the coolant, add on the little T-piece, and connect the airline to it. This is going to suck the air out of the cooling system. Once it's pulled a good enough vacuum, we can leave it to make sure that there's no leaks in the cooling system. And this looks good. Step 5, get your Valvoline coolant. Of course, we're using Valvoline. Team Valvoline all the way. We're part of Team Valvoline. Look, it's actually made for BMW Mini and Rolls Royce.
Oh.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? Now, instead of using it out of the Valvoline bottle, we're pouring it into a bucket. You'll find out why in a minute. But we are now part of the Valvoline team. What a great brand to be a part of. Step 5.5, make sure we have no air bubbles in it. This is a trick my dad showed me. Wait, how did you do it? We've got to try and get this hose with no air in it, but only coolant. That way, when it gets sucked into the cooling system, we don't pull any air in it. Go. Oh, big air bubble.
Oh no.
Oh no.
We didn't do that very well.
No. We may have pulled a few air bubbles in, but overall, we're sucking most of the coolant from the bucket into the cooling system now. And once that's done, we top up the rest just to the maximum fill point. And then on the charge cooler side, I think you can just pour it in. Before we move any further, oil time. Valvoline oil. Valvoline has been around for over 150 years. So you can be 100% confident that their products are spot on, which is exactly why I agreed to be part of the team. So to get some Valvoline, you can do by checking the link out in the description. Cheers Valvoline, if only it was made easier by BMW to fill it up. Okay, cheers Valvoline for that one. No, really, cheers Valvoline. This is one of our biggest partnerships yet. Thanks so much for helping us all out. You ready for step 7?
Yep.
This has got to be pressed 3 times now.
Right.
I'm not joking either. 1, 2, 3. Set the heating to the maximum temperature. And the fan to the lowest. Lowest.
Strange.
Yeah, okay. Press the accelerator pedal and maintain for 15 seconds.
What?
Do not press the brake pedal during this process. Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Yeah, what's that?
The water pump's going round. Step off the accelerator, press the brake pedal, start engine. The engine speed and actuators in the cooling system are automatically controlled. So just start it. Hey! Service function has started. Yeah, like what it says in the manual.
Bit revving.
What happened to just pouring in coolant and oil? Why? Switch off engine. I think now what it's basically saying is just check the levels. Price. Now, so far up to this, the front end, all of the brand new second-hand parts cost me £4,800, which I think is actually not too bad. The dashboard, £450. Airbags, £500. Total so far, £37,750. We're expecting the car to be worth around £60,000 afterwards, and we are on target to reach goals. Now, I was actually going to drive it out properly for the first time. It's already looking great, apart from the back. Well, we've got a lot done. Now, we need to tackle this rear quarter. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.
What do you love about Valvoline?
The colours.
Like a drug that I just can't deny.